possibilities. Director Harlow had attended 3 high-level security conferences. Dr. Keller had visited 2 research facilities to consult on related projects. Colonel Vega had conducted security assessments at multiple Alliance installations. And Mercer had made numerous field operations to monitor various intelligence assets. Any of these trips could have provided opportunity for unauthorized contact. The question was, which one had motive? "What's the Helix Nebula?" Alex asked suddenly. The operatives came from a blacklisted system in that region, but the files contain minimal information. Mercer's expression turned guarded. "That's beyond your current clearance level." "I thought we'd moved past arbitrary restrictions," Alex said coldly. "Someone sent highly trained operatives to capture or kill me. I need to know why." After a moment's hesitation, Mercer accessed a secure database and entered a series of authorization codes. A new set of files appeared on Alex's terminal. "The Helix Nebula contains a research outpost established jointly by Alliance and Consortium scientists before the current tensions," he explained. "It was designated for exotic physics research, specifically technologies that could theoretically allow faster-than-light communication." "That doesn't sound particularly threatening," Alex noted. "The research evolved," Mercer continued. "From communication to transportation, then to more exotic applications. When the Alliance Consortium relationship deteriorated, both sides tried to secure the facility and its research. The resulting conflict led to a containment breach." "Containment of what?" "Something the scientists created, or perhaps summoned. The reports aren't entirely clear. What we do know is that the personnel who survived were changed." Alex processed this information. "Changed how?" "Enhanced, but not like you. Their modifications weren't carefully designed and integrated. They were chaotic, unpredictable. Some gained abilities beyond anything our science can explain. Others suffered grotesque mutations." "And the Alliance's response?" "Quarantine. The entire system was blacklisted. All approach vectors mined and monitored. Official records listed as a disaster zone contaminated by experimental radiation." "But the quarantine failed," Alex guessed. "Some of the changed personnel escaped." "They formed what we now call the Helix Operatives, enhanced individuals offering their services to the highest bidder. Some work for the Consortium, others operate independently. All are considered extremely dangerous." Alex leaned back, processing the implications. "So these Helix Operatives targeted me because of my enhancements. They want to study me, replicate the process that made me stable while their own modifications are chaotic." "That's our working theory," Mercer confirmed. "Your unique success makes you invaluable, not just to us, but to anyone researching human enhancement." The pieces were falling into place. Not just the immediate threat from the Helix Operatives, but the broader context of why Project Chimera existed, why she had been deployed under deep cover, and why someone might betray the program. "I need to review the personnel files again," Alex said, returning her attention to the terminal. "Specifically, any connections to the original Helix Nebula research." The search yielded an unexpected result. Dr. Keller had been part of the original research team, though he'd been evacuated before the containment breach. His expertise in neural integration had made him the perfect candidate to lead Project Chimera's enhancement protocols. "Did you know Keller worked at the Helix facility?" Alex asked Mercer. "Yes. That's precisely why he was recruited for Chimera. His experience with the failed enhancements informed our more successful approach. And you don't see that as a potential security concern?" "His background was thoroughly vetted," Mercer assured her. "Multiple psychological evaluations, constant monitoring. If he had divided loyalties, we would have detected it." Alex wasn't convinced. She dug deeper into Keller's history, looking for anything that might suggest connections to the Helix Operatives. His official record was clean, but there were gaps, periods where his activities weren't fully documented. "What about personal relationships?" she asked. "Friends, colleagues from the Helix facility who might have been among those changed?" Mercer frowned. "Not that I'm aware of. Most of his former colleagues died in the containment breach or are confirmed quarantined within the system. Most, but not all," Alex noted. "I need a complete list of Helix survivors, including those believed to have escaped the quarantine." "That information is compartmentalized even beyond my access," Mercer admitted. "Only Director Harlow would have the complete file." Alex considered her options. She could confront Harlow directly, but if the director was involved in the leak, that would alert her. Better to gather more evidence first. "I need to speak with Colonel Vega," she decided. As security chief, she should have access to personnel monitoring reports. Mercer arranged the meeting, and 30 minutes later, Colonel Vega joined them in the data center. Her expression was professional but wary as Alex explained her request. "You suspect Dr. Keller based on his past assignment?" Vega clarified. That's thin evidence, Lieutenant. He's been with the program since inception, with an exemplary security record. I'm not making accusations, Alex replied. I'm following a logical investigation path. Keller has knowledge of both the Helix incident and my enhancements. That makes him a person of interest. Vega considered this. Fair enough. I can provide security monitoring logs for all key personnel, including Keller. She accessed a secure database through her authorization codes. What specifically are you looking for? Communication patterns, unusual behavior, unexplained absences, anything that deviates from established routines. The logs were comprehensive. Movement tracking, communication metadata, even general behavior assessments from security AI. As they reviewed the data together, a pattern began to emerge. Not with Keller, but with Director Harlow herself. These gaps in her monitoring, Alex pointed out. 3 occasions in the past month where she disabled the tracking protocols on her personal device for periods of 4 to 6 hours. Standard procedure for certain high-level meetings, Vega explained. Some discussions are too sensitive even for encrypted channels. But according to her official schedule, she wasn't in meetings during these periods, Alex countered. She was supposedly in her private quarters. Vega frowned. That's unusual. Protocol requires notification if tracking is disabled for personal reasons. Could she override that requirement? She's the director. She can override almost any protocol. Vega's expression turned troubled. But it would generate a security flag in my systems. There's no record of any such flags. Meaning the system itself was modified to prevent the flags from being generated, Mercer concluded. That requires extremely high-level access. Or help from someone with technical expertise, Alex suggested. Someone like Dr. Keller. The 3 exchanged glances, the implications clear. Either Director Harlow was acting alone, bypassing her own security protocols, or she was working with someone who could help her cover her tracks. We need more evidence before making accusations, Vega cautioned. Director Harlow has dedicated her career to Alliance security. The idea that she would betray it now. People have complex motivations, Alex replied. And everyone has pressure points. What do we know about Harlow's personal life? Family? Close relationships? Vega hesitated before responding. The director is intensely private. No family that I'm aware of. Few personal connections outside her professional circle. That's not entirely accurate, Mercer interjected quietly. Harlow had a son, Victor. He was a researcher, assigned to the Helix facility before the containment breach. Alex felt a chill of recognition. Let me guess. He was among those changed by whatever happened there. Presumed dead according to official records, Mercer confirmed. His body was never recovered, but analysis of facility logs indicated he was near the epicenter when containment failed. Or he survived and became one of the Helix operatives, Alex suggested, which would give Harlow a powerful motive to betray the program, to help her son, or perhaps to secure treatment for him if his enhancements are unstable. It's circumstantial, Vega argued, though her tone suggested she found the theory plausible. We need concrete evidence before confronting the director. Alex turned to her terminal, accessing communication records again. If Harlow was contacting Helix operatives, she wouldn't use official channels. But even unofficial communications leave traces. Power usage patterns, network access logs, radiation signatures from quantum encryption. Those would be automatically scrubbed from the system, Vega pointed out. From the primary system, yes, Alex agreed. But what about environmental monitoring? The facility maintains independent sensors for life support, security, and maintenance. Those systems might capture secondary evidence of communications. Vega's eyes widened slightly. Clever. Those systems operate on separate networks with their own archival protocols. She accessed a different database, entering her security credentials. Let me check the atmospheric monitoring logs. Quantum communications generate specific radiation patterns that environmental sensors might detect as anomalies. The search took time, the system not designed for this kind of investigation. But eventually, a pattern emerged. Subtle radiation spikes in Director Harlow's quarters coinciding exactly with the periods when her tracking had been disabled. That's consistent with secure quantum communications, Vega confirmed, her expression hardening. Outside our monitored channels. Can we trace the destination? Alex asked. Not precisely, but we can establish a general vector. Vega performed additional analysis. The signal was directed toward the Helix Nebula sector. Not conclusive proof, but combined with everything else, it's enough to justify further investigation, Mercer concluded. The question is, how do we proceed? If Harlow realizes we suspect her, she could destroy evidence or alert her contacts. Alex considered their options. We need to set a trap. Give her information she'll feel compelled to share with her Helix contacts. Then monitor the resulting communication. What kind of information? Vega asked. Something about me, Alex suggested. Something that would make me an even more valuable target. She thought for a moment. Tell her my latest medical evaluation revealed an unexpected development. My enhancements are continuing to evolve, becoming more stable and integrated than any previous subject. That would certainly get attention, Mercer agreed. But we'd need to ensure the information reaches only Harlow initially. Dr. Keller can provide the medical update, Alex explained. He already noted that my cognitive enhancements are exceeding design parameters. We simply emphasize those findings in a confidential report to Harlow. The plan came together quickly. Dr. Keller, after being thoroughly vetted by Vega's security team, agreed to prepare a special medical report highlighting Alex's unique adaptation to the enhancements. The report would be delivered to Director Harlow with the highest security classification, restricting access to her alone. Meanwhile, Vega modified the environmental sensors in Harlow's quarters to capture more detailed data on any quantum communications. If the director took the bait and contacted her Helix connections, they would have definitive proof. 48 hours later, the trap was sprung. Dr. Keller delivered his report, emphasizing that Alex's neurological integration had reached unprecedented levels of stability, making her not just the only successful Chimera subject, but potentially the template for an entirely new generation of enhanced operatives. That evening, the modified sensors detected exactly what they had anticipated. A focused quantum communication burst from Harlow's quarters, directed toward the Helix Nebula sector. The transmission lasted just under 3 minutes, long enough to relay the essential information about Alex's condition. We have our evidence, Mercer declared, reviewing the sensor logs. The transmission vector matches previous communications exactly. What now? Alex asked. Confront her directly? Not yet, Vega cautioned. If her son is indeed among the Helix operatives, we need to understand the full extent of her betrayal. Was this a one-time lapse in judgment, or has she been systematically compromising Alliance security? Either way, she's dangerous, Alex pointed out. If she realizes we're on to her, she could warn the Helix operatives to launch another extraction attempt. Then we ensure she doesn't realize it, Mercer decided. We continue as normal while monitoring her communications more aggressively. When the Helix operatives respond to her information, as they inevitably will, we'll be prepared. The wait was shorter than expected. Less than 24 hours after Harlow's transmission, long-range sensors detected a vessel approaching from the direction of the Helix Nebula. Its configuration matched the ship that had attacked Outpost Sigma-19, though with modifications to its propulsion and defensive systems. They took the bait, Mercer observed as they monitored the approaching vessel from a secure command center. And they're not being subtle about it. Why would they be? Alex replied. From their perspective, they have inside information and support. They're expecting to waltz in, extract me, and disappear before the Alliance can respond effectively. Little do they know we've prepared a proper welcome, Vega said grimly, reviewing the defense plans she had developed. The facility's security systems had been quietly enhanced, with additional personnel strategically positioned. Every approach vector was covered by multiple weapon emplacements. What about Harlow? Alex asked. She'll warn them if she suspects we know. The director has been called to an emergency briefing, Mercer explained. She's currently in a secure conference room with communications blocked, ostensibly reviewing a developing situation near the border. By the time she realizes it's a diversion, the Helix vessel will be within our defensive perimeter. As the ship approached, Alex found herself analyzing the tactical situation automatically. Threat assessments, response scenarios, optimal engagement parameters all calculating in her enhanced mind. This was what she had been designed for. High-stakes strategic operations where human limitations would be a fatal disadvantage. They're entering outer defense range, Vega announced. Identification protocols initiated. The standard challenge was transmitted to the approaching vessel. Identify yourself or be treated as hostile. The response was immediate and unexpected. The ship transmitted valid Alliance diplomatic codes, different from those used in the Sigma-19 attack but equally official. They've improved their forgery capabilities, Mercer noted. Not forgery, Alex corrected, examining the authorization signature. Those are genuine codes, current ones. Vega's expression darkened. Harlow must have provided them. These are director-level authorizations. Reject them, Mercer ordered. Cite protocol violations and maintain defensive posture. The Helix vessel's response to the rejection was not the expected aggression, but a direct communication request, specifically asking to speak with Director Harlow. Put it through to the command center only, Mercer decided. Let's see who we're dealing with. The main screen activated, revealing a figure whose appearance caused all three of them to tense. Humanoid but distinctly altered, skin with a metallic sheen, eyes that glowed with an internal light, and neural interfaces visibly embedded in the skull and neck. Despite these changes, the facial structure was recognizably similar to Director Harlow's. "Victor Harlow," Mercer murmured. "I wish to speak with Director Elizabeth Harlow," the figure stated, his voice carrying harmonic undertones that no human vocal cords could produce. "I know she's there. This is a family matter." "Director Harlow is unavailable," Mercer replied evenly. "State your business." Victor's altered features formed something approximating a smile. "My business is with the Chimera subject designated Alexandra Reed. My mother has informed me of her unique stability. Such a breakthrough could benefit many who suffer as I do." "Your concern is touching," Alex said, stepping into view. "But I'm not interested in becoming a research subject for the Helix operatives." Victor studied her with unnatural intensity. "Lieutenant Reed, or should I say Major Winters, your original designation before the identity suppression." His head tilted slightly. "Mother didn't mention you'd been fully reactivated. Interesting." The casual revelation of her pre-Chimera identity, a detail not included in Harlow's intercepted transmission, confirmed their suspicions. The director had been feeding information to her son for some time, not just recently. "Your mother has committed treason by sharing classified information," Mercer stated flatly. "Surrender your vessel, and we can discuss terms that might mitigate her situation." Victor laughed, the sound distorted by his modified physiology. "Always the diplomat, Agent Mercer. But we both know the Alliance doesn't negotiate with security threats like me." His glowing gaze returned to Alex. "I'm offering you a choice, Major. Come willingly, and we can help each other. Your stable enhancements could be the key to helping those of us whose modifications are less elegant." "And if I refuse?" Alex asked, already calculating combat probabilities. "Then we take you by force," Victor replied simply. "My operatives have already breached your perimeter defenses. In fact, they should be reaching your level approximately now." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the facility. Security feeds showed armored figures moving through the lower levels with the same precision Alex had witnessed at Outpost Sigma 19. "How?" Vega began before understanding dawned. "Harlow, she gave them the facility schematics, among other things," Victor confirmed. "Mother has been quite helpful in planning this operation. She believes in my work, our work, even if the Alliance abandoned us after the Helix incident." Alex processed this information rapidly, formulating and discarding response strategies. The facility's defenses were compromised, their security protocols known to the enemy. Standard tactics would fail against an adversary with such complete intelligence. "Time for something unorthodox." "I need 5 minutes," she told Mercer quietly. "Keep him talking." As Mercer engaged Victor in diplomatic doublespeak, Alex slipped from the command center. In the corridor outside, she accessed a maintenance terminal and began overriding safety protocols throughout the facility. Environmental controls, power distribution, security systems, all could be weaponized if you were willing to ignore standard operating procedures. By the time she returned to the command center, the intruders had reached the upper levels. Security feeds showed them methodically neutralizing resistance, clearly following a pre-planned route directly to her location. "Victor is still pontificating about the noble work of the Helix operatives," Mercer informed her in a low voice. "Apparently they see themselves as the next stage of human evolution, helping those the Alliance abandoned." "Very altruistic," Alex replied dryly. "Colonel Vega, I've rerouted emergency protocols through your security authorization. On my signal, enter command sequence Alpha 7 Delta. Vega looked surprised, but nodded. "What will that do?" "Create chaos," Alex said simply, "which is exactly what we need right now." The command center door shuddered as something impacted it from outside. The same breaching technique used at Sigma 19. Alex positioned herself directly in view of the communication screen, ensuring Victor could see her clearly. "Last chance," she called to the image on the screen. "Withdraw your forces or this gets messy." Victor's altered face showed amusement. "You're surrounded, outnumbered, and outgunned. There's no scenario where you prevail, Major." "That's where you're wrong," Alex replied calmly. "There's always another option when you're willing to think beyond conventional tactics." She glanced at Vega. "Now, Colonel." Vega entered the command sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, throughout the facility, chaos erupted. Emergency bulkheads slammed down in randomized patterns, trapping Helix operatives in isolated sections. Ventilation systems began cycling atmosphere at maximum capacity, creating hurricane-force winds in some corridors while evacuating air completely from others. Lighting systems fluctuated wildly, disrupting the operative's visual sensors. Most dramatically, the artificial gravity deactivated in selected sections, sending unanchored personnel and equipment floating in zero-G. On the security feeds, the previously coordinated assault dissolved into confusion as operatives found themselves separated, disoriented, and fighting against environmental conditions rather than facility defenders. Victor's expression shifted from confidence to alarm. "What have you done?" "Created a tactical advantage," Alex replied. "Your operatives might be enhanced, but they rely on planning and coordination. Take those away, and they're just individuals with fancy implants." The command center door buckled inward as the breaching charges finally detonated. 3 Helix operatives surged through the opening, weapons ready, only to find themselves suddenly weightless as Alex's reprogrammed systems eliminated gravity in that section. Unlike the operatives, Alex was prepared. She launched herself from a fixed position, using the zero-G environment to her advantage. Her enhanced reflexes calculated trajectories and momentum perfectly, allowing her to intercept the first operative before he could stabilize himself. The fight was brief and decisive. Without solid footing, the operative's superior strength meant little. Alex neutralized all 3 within 30 seconds, using their own momentum against them with precisely applied force. "Your extraction team has failed," she informed Victor, who watched the display with evident shock. "And your ship is about to have company. Alliance rapid response vessels are already en route." It was a bluff. No reinforcements had been called, but Victor couldn't know that. His altered features contorted in frustration. "This isn't over," he promised. "Mother's position gives us advantages you can't imagine. We'll find you eventually." "I'm counting on it," Alex replied. "Next time I'll be better prepared." The communication cut abruptly as Victor's ship broke orbit, accelerating away from the facility. Tactical projections indicated it would reach FTL jump range before any hypothetical pursuit could intercept it. "They're retreating," Vega confirmed, monitoring the security feeds. "The remaining operatives are withdrawing to extraction points." "Let them go," Mercer decided. "We have a more immediate concern." He glanced meaningfully at the secure conference room where Director Harlow remained, still unaware that her betrayal had been discovered. Alex restored normal environmental conditions throughout the facility, allowing the defense teams to regroup and assess casualties. The Helix operatives had inflicted damage, but nothing critical. Her unconventional tactics had disrupted their careful planning, reducing their effectiveness significantly. "What now?" she asked as they gathered outside the conference room where Harlow waited. "We take her into custody," Mercer replied. "She'll face charges of treason, conspiracy, unauthorized disclosure of classified information. The list is extensive." "And then?" Alex pressed. "What happens to Project Chimera? To me?" Mercer exchanged glances with Vega before responding. "That's complicated. The project's security has been fundamentally compromised. Standard protocol would call for complete shutdown, including—" He didn't finish the sentence. "Including Protocol Omega for existing subjects," Alex completed for him, meaning me. "I wouldn't support that option," Vega interjected firmly. "You've proven your value beyond question. Without you, this facility would have been overrun." "The decision isn't ours to make," Mercer cautioned. "Once Harlow is in custody, Alliance High Command will review the entire program." Alex considered her position. The Alliance might well decide she was too great a security risk now that the Helix operatives knew about her. Protocol Omega would be the cleanest solution from their perspective. Eliminate the asset rather than risk its capture. But she wasn't just an asset anymore. She was Alexandra Reed, lieutenant in the Alliance Security Forces, and simultaneously Major Elizabeth Winters, enhanced operative of Project Chimera. Both identities were real, both formed her current self, and that self had no intention of being decommissioned for administrative convenience. "Let's deal with Harlow first," she decided. "The rest can wait." They entered the conference room together. Director Harlow looked up from her datapad, irritation evident on her features. "Agent Mercer, what is the meaning of this emergency briefing? I've been waiting for over an hour with no—" She stopped abruptly, noticing their expressions and the security personnel behind them. Understanding dawned in her eyes. "Ah, I see." "Director Elizabeth Harlow," Mercer stated formally. "You are hereby detained on suspicion of treason, conspiracy, and unauthorized disclosure of classified intelligence to hostile entities." Harlow's composure remained intact. "Victor contacted you, I assume? He was always impatient, even before the changes." She looked directly at Alex. "He only wants help. The Helix survivors are dying from their unstable modifications. Your successful integration represents their only hope. So you betrayed your oath, your position, and dozens of innocent people who died in the attacks. Alex asked, keeping her voice neutral despite the anger she felt. All for one person? For my son, Harlow corrected. You can't understand until you face the same choice. What would you sacrifice for someone you love more than your own life? Before Alex could respond, alarms blared again, different from the previous security alert. These were deeper, more urgent. The facility's critical emergency system. Critical containment breach detected, an automated voice announced. 15 minutes to facility evacuation. This is not a drill. Vega rushed to the nearest terminal. Someone's activated the emergency evacuation protocols. But there's no actual containment breach. It's been triggered manually. Override it, Mercer demanded. I can't. It's been locked with director-level authorization. Vega looked accusingly at Harlow. What have you done? Harlow smiled thinly. Insurance policy. I suspected you might discover my communications eventually. The evacuation can only be aborted with my personal authorization code, which I will provide once I'm safely away from this facility, with Lieutenant Reed accompanying me. You're insane, Mercer breathed. There are over 100 personnel in this facility, and they'll all survive if you cooperate, Harlow replied calmly. A shuttle is already prepared in Bay 3. Lieutenant Reed and I will depart immediately. Once we're clear, I'll transmit the abort code. Don't do this, Alex urged. Whatever you think Victor needs, this isn't the way. It's the only way left, Harlow insisted. The Alliance abandoned the Helix survivors, labeled them security threats, and left them to suffer. I won't abandon my son the same way. The countdown continued, each second reducing their options. Alex calculated probabilities rapidly. Even if they forced the abort code from Harlow, the verification process might take too long. Evacuation was possible for most personnel, but the facility would be lost along with all its research. I'll go, she decided suddenly. But only if all personnel are evacuated first. Alex, no, Mercer objected. We can't trust her to provide the abort code once you're in her custody. We don't have a choice, Alex countered. 100 lives against one. She turned to Harlow. Those are my terms. Full evacuation, then I go with you voluntarily. Harlow considered briefly, then nodded. Acceptable. The countdown gives us sufficient time for evacuation. The next 13 minutes were controlled chaos as the facility's personnel rushed to evacuation points. Vega coordinated the process with military efficiency, ensuring no one was left behind. Meanwhile, Alex prepared for departure with Harlow, her enhanced mind continuously calculating escape scenarios. Don't try anything heroic, Harlow warned as they walked toward the shuttle bay, surrounded by security personnel who had been instructed not to interfere. The abort code is mentally encrypted. If I'm incapacitated, the facility is lost. I understand the situation perfectly, Alex assured her. Just like I understand that once we're away, you have no incentive to save the facility anyway. I'm not a monster, Lieutenant. I don't want those people to die. I just want to save my son. By turning me over to the Helix operatives for experimentation, Alex pointed out. Not exactly moral high ground. Harlow didn't respond to that. They reached the shuttle bay just as the evacuation was completing. Vega's voice came over the communication system. All personnel accounted for except essential command staff. Evacuation 98% complete. That's our cue, Harlow said, gesturing toward the waiting shuttle. After you, Lieutenant. Alex entered the shuttle, analyzing its systems with a quick glance. Standard Alliance transport, minimally armed but fast. 2 pilot seats, passenger compartment, small cargo area. No crew? Harlow evidently planned to fly it herself. Take the co-pilot seat, Harlow instructed, sliding into the pilot position. And don't touch anything. The abort code transmission is keyed to my biometrics as a failsafe. Alex complied, watching as Harlow initiated launch procedures. The shuttle's engines hummed to life, the bay doors opening to reveal the star-filled darkness of space beyond. Shuttle launch authorized, came Mercer's voice over the communication system. Director Harlow, remember our agreement? The abort code must be transmitted once you clear the facility's defensive perimeter. Of course, Agent Mercer. I am a woman of my word. The shuttle lifted smoothly, exiting the bay and accelerating away from the facility. On the chronometer, the evacuation countdown showed less than 1 minute remaining. The abort code, Director, Alex prompted as they cleared the defensive perimeter. You promised. Harlow's hands moved across the control panel, transmitting the required authorization. The evacuation alert immediately ceased, replaced by an all-clear signal. There, Harlow said with satisfaction. Everyone's safe, as promised. I told you I wasn't a monster. Alex studied her carefully. But you are still planning to hand me over to Victor. To help him and others like him, yes. Your stable enhancements could save hundreds of lives. Harlow glanced at her. You volunteered for this program to serve a greater good. This isn't so different. Before Alex could respond, the shuttle's sensors detected a ship approaching, emerging from stealth mode directly ahead. Its configuration was immediately recognizable as the Helix vessel that had retreated from the facility. "Right on schedule," Harlow murmured. Victor always had excellent timing. The Helix vessel grew larger in the view screen, a docking bay opening like a maw to receive their shuttle. Alex assessed her options rapidly. She could attempt to overpower Harlow and take control of the shuttle, but the Helix ship would likely disable them before she could complete course correction. "This doesn't have to be adversarial," Harlow said, noting her tension. "Victor's people only want to study your enhancements, to understand why they succeeded when others failed. You could help save hundreds of lives." "By becoming a laboratory specimen," Alex replied. "Forgive me if I'm not enthusiastic about the prospect." The shuttle continued its approach to the Helix vessel, now close enough that details of its unusual construction were visible. The hull appeared partially organic, with sections that pulsed and shifted in ways no standard material should. "A product of the Helix incident," Harlow explained, following her gaze. "The boundaries between technology and biology became fluid during the containment breach. The survivors integrated with their environment in ways our science still doesn't fully understand." "And that doesn't concern you?" Alex asked. "That your son is part of something so fundamentally alien?" "What concerns me is that he's suffering," Harlow replied sharply. "The integration is incomplete, unstable. His systems are slowly breaking down, along with those of the other survivors." Her expression softened slightly. "You're different. Your enhancements were methodically designed, carefully integrated. The key to saving Victor lies in understanding how your modifications succeeded where others failed." The shuttle entered the Helix vessel's docking bay, settling onto the deck with a gentle thud. Through the viewport, Alex could see figures waiting, some in the same tactical armor as the operatives she'd fought, others in what appeared to be medical garb. "Last chance, Director," Alex said quietly. "You can still end this. Return to the Alliance, explain your actions. With your cooperation, they might help find a way to treat Victor legitimately." Harlow's laugh was bitter. "The Alliance declared the Helix survivors non-persons the moment the containment breach occurred. They're classified as security threats, not patients. There is no legitimate help coming." She rose from her seat. "This is the only way." As the shuttle's hatch began to open, Alex made her decision. Not the logical choice, perhaps, but the human one. "I understand why you did it," she said softly. "I don't agree with your methods, but I understand the motivation." Harlow paused, surprised by the shift in tone. "Then you'll cooperate?" "No," Alex replied simply. "But I won't condemn you either. You acted out of love, however misguided." Before Harlow could respond, Alex moved, faster than any unenhanced human could track. Her hand found the emergency release for the co-pilot's seat, converting it instantly into an escape pod configuration. The shuttle's emergency protocols recognized the activation and automatically sealed the compartment. "What are you—" Harlow began, but her words were cut off as the pod ejected forcefully from the shuttle's underside, launching through an emergency access port in the docking bay floor. The tiny pod tumbled through space, its minimal thrusters struggling to stabilize. Through the small viewport, Alex watched as the Helix vessel receded, its unusual hull rippling with what might have been agitation. The pod's communication system crackled to life. "Lieutenant Reed," came Mercer's voice, tense but controlled. "Our sensors detected an emergency ejection. Status?" "Alive and free," Alex replied. "Director Harlow is aboard the Helix vessel. No injuries on either side." "Understood. Maintain position. Extraction team en route to your coordinates." Alex settled back in the cramped pod, monitoring the Helix vessel through the viewport. It remained stationary, perhaps assessing whether to pursue. After several minutes, it began to move, not toward her, but away, accelerating rapidly before disappearing into FTL. They had let her go. Curious. The Alliance extraction team arrived 20 minutes later, a sleek Corvette designed for rapid deployment and recovery operations. As the pod was drawn into its recovery bay, Alex considered what would come next. Her cover at Outpost Sigma-19 was irreparably blown. Project Chimera was compromised. Director Harlow's defection would trigger the most extensive security review in Alliance history. And she, the only successful Chimera subject, represented both a valuable asset and a potential liability. Protocol Omega remained a possibility. Some within the Alliance would argue that she knew too much, that her enhancements were too valuable to risk capture. Others might see her potential as outweighing the risks. But they would be missing the most important factor. She was no longer just a project asset. The experiences, relationships, and choices she had made, both as Alexandra Reed and in her original identity, had created someone new, someone who could make her own decisions. As the recovery team secured her pod and prepared to open it, Alex made a promise to herself. Whatever came next, whatever the Alliance decided, she would determine her own fate. The human within the enhanced operative would have the final say. The pod hatch opened, revealing a team of Alliance security personnel led by Agent Mercer. His expression was unreadable as he offered a hand to help her exit the cramped compartment. "Welcome back, Lieutenant," he said formally. "Or should I say Major? Your status is somewhat undefined at the moment." Alex accepted his hand, stepping onto the deck with fluid grace. "Let's stick with Alex for now," she suggested. "The rest can be sorted out later." Mercer nodded, then lowered his voice. "You should know, there's already discussion about Protocol Omega at the highest levels. The security breach is unprecedented." "I expected as much," Alex replied calmly. "And what's your position on the matter?" He hesitated before answering. "Officially, I follow orders. Unofficially, I believe assets should be evaluated on their current value, not potential risk." "Good to know." Alex stretched subtly, feeling her enhanced body respond with perfect precision despite the recent trauma. "I assume we're heading back to Alliance space?" "Central Command specifically," Mercer confirmed. "The Joint Chiefs want to debrief you personally." Alex smiled slightly. "I look forward to the conversation." As the Corvette accelerated toward Alliance space, Alex gazed out at the stars, considering possibilities. The Helix operatives would come for her again. Harlow and her son would not abandon their pursuit easily. And the Alliance itself represented an uncertain future. Protection and purpose, but also potential confinement or termination. The universe had become significantly more complicated since that conversation in the Sigma-19 rec room just days ago. "You know what's weird about humans?" Kistvak had asked, mandibles clicking with smug certainty. "They're absolutely terrible at killing things quickly." If only he could see her now. 3 months later. The diplomatic reception hall on New Geneva Station hummed with conversation, representatives from a dozen species mingling with practiced cordiality. Alliance and consortium diplomats maintained polite distances from each other, while proxies engaged in the real negotiations that would never appear in official records. Commander Veleth stood near the refreshment table, looking distinctly uncomfortable in formal diplomatic attire. His scaled skin seemed duller under the bright lighting, though that might have been the effect of 3 hours of political small talk. "You appear to be enjoying yourself immensely, Commander," observed a familiar voice. Veleth turned to find Alexandra Reed, now officially Lieutenant Commander Reed following her promotion, approaching with 2 glasses of something blue and effervescent. "Lieutenant, forgive me, Commander Reed," he greeted her, accepting the offered drink. "A pleasant surprise. I didn't realize you were stationed at New Geneva." "Recent assignment," Alex replied. "Diplomatic security detail, very routine." "Of course," Veleth said, mandibles twitching slightly in what Alex recognized as skepticism. "Just as I'm sure your promotion and new posting had nothing to do with the incident at Sigma-19. Alex smiled. The Alliance occasionally recognizes merit, surprising as that may seem. They sipped their drinks in companionable silence for a moment, observing the diplomatic dance happening around them. A consortium trade minister was engaged in animated conversation with an Alliance economic advisor near the main entrance. 2 Dravidi representatives were examining an art installation with their species' characteristic intensity. A group of Yithic diplomats, including one with a particularly shiny emerald carapace, were clustered near the speaker's podium. "Is that Kistvak?" Alex asked, nodding toward the Yithic group. "Indeed," Veleth confirmed. "Recently appointed as a junior diplomatic attaché to the Consortium Border Affairs Committee. He specifically requested assignment to New Geneva Station. That's unexpected. Less so than you might think. After the incident at Sigma-19, he developed a sudden intense interest in human-Ythic relations. Something about a fundamental reassessment of interspecies capabilities." Veleth's tone remained neutral, but his eyes conveyed amusement. "He's written several papers on the subject, quite popular among certain academic circles. I'm honored to have contributed to interspecies understanding," Alex said dryly. "Speaking of contributions," Veleth continued, "I understand the Alliance has implemented new security protocols for all border monitoring stations based on your creative response to the Sigma-19 incursion. Standard procedure after any security incident." Alex deflected. "Identify vulnerabilities, adapt, improve." Veleth studied her with unnerving intensity. "And yet, I can't help noticing that your new assignment places you at the center of Alliance Consortium diplomatic relations, where you would be positioned to identify potential security threats before they materialize." Alex maintained a casual expression. "Pure coincidence, I assure you." "Of course." Veleth clearly didn't believe her, but was too diplomatic to press further. "In any case, your presence is appreciated. The current negotiations are delicate, especially with the rumors about Helix operative involvement in recent border incidents. Alex tensed slightly but kept her expression neutral. Oh, I haven't heard those rumors. No? Veleth's mandibles twitched. Strange, considering your personal experience with them. There have been reports of enhanced operatives testing Alliance defenses along the Cygnus arm. Nothing confirmed officially, but enough incidents to establish a pattern. Before Alex could respond, a chime sounded, indicating the formal proceedings were about to begin. Delegates moved toward their designated seating areas, the gentle hum of conversation diminishing. Duty calls, Veleth said, finishing his drink. Perhaps we can continue this conversation later, Commander Reed. I'd like that, Alex replied sincerely. It's good to see a familiar face. As Veleth moved toward the consortium delegation section, Alex scanned the room with practiced efficiency. Her enhanced senses cataloged potential threats, escape routes, and tactical positions automatically, a background process that had become second nature since her full reactivation. The Joint Chiefs had ultimately decided against Protocol Omega, recognizing that Alex's unique capabilities outweighed the security risks. Her full memories and enhanced abilities had been maintained, but with new operational parameters, no deep cover assignments, regular psychological evaluation, and direct oversight from Alliance intelligence. In practice, this meant she straddled the line between conventional military officer and covert operative. Her official posting to diplomatic security provided cover for her real mission, monitoring consortium activities for any sign of Helix operative involvement, particularly anything connected to Victor Harlow and his mother. The former director had disappeared completely after the shuttle incident. Alliance intelligence presumed she had integrated fully with the Helix operatives, providing them with valuable intelligence on Alliance security protocols. Victor's group had been unusually active in recent months, probing defenses and gathering information rather than conducting direct operations. They were planning something significant. Alex could feel it. As the diplomatic proceedings began with the traditional exchange of formal greetings, Alex maintained her position near the main entrance, observing the crowd. Nothing seemed immediately suspicious, but experience had taught her that threats often emerged from unexpected quarters. Her communication implant, a recent addition that interfaced directly with her enhanced neural pathways, chimed softly, indicating a priority message from Alliance intelligence. Read, she subvocalized, the implant detecting the minute throat movements and translating them into clear communication. Commander, came Mercer's voice, transmitted directly to her auditory nerves. We've intercepted communications suggesting Helix operative presence on New Geneva, potential infiltration of the diplomatic corps. Understood, Alex replied, scanning the room with renewed focus. Any specific targets identified? Negative. Intelligence is fragmentary. Exercise extreme caution. If Helix operatives are present, they'll recognize you. Acknowledged. The formal speeches had begun, an Alliance representative welcoming the gathered diplomats with practiced platitudes about cooperation and mutual benefit. Alex tuned out the words, focusing instead on subtle behavioral cues throughout the audience. Enhanced hearing allowed her to monitor multiple conversations simultaneously, filtering for keywords or tonal anomalies that might indicate deception. Nothing immediately suspicious emerged, but something felt wrong. An instinct born of enhanced intuition combined with tactical training, a sense that she was missing something important. She shifted position slightly, moving to where she could observe both the speaker's podium and the main entrance. The consortium delegation appeared typically reserved, their senior representatives maintaining the carefully neutral expressions diplomatic protocol required. Among the junior staffers, however, one figure caught her attention. A human aide who seemed unusually focused on his datapad rather than the proceedings. Alex enhanced her vision, examining the aide more closely. Nothing obviously suspicious. Appropriate credentials visible on his uniform, standard consortium diplomatic corps attire. Body language consistent with boredom rather than tension. And yet, she activated her implant again. Mercer, I need identification on a human male in the consortium delegation. Junior aide, approximately 30, dark hair, blue diplomatic uniform, currently seated third row back, far left. A brief pause as Mercer presumably accessed relevant databases. Identified as Thomas Reeves, diplomatic corps for 3 years, assigned to consortium Undersecretary Levian. No red flags in his background. Run a deeper check, Alex instructed. Something feels off. As she waited for Mercer's response, the diplomatic proceedings continued. The Alliance representative concluded his welcome, yielding the podium to the consortium's senior diplomat. The transition was smooth, practiced, exactly as these ceremonies always proceeded. Too smooth, perhaps. Alex's enhanced senses detected a subtle shift in the room's atmospheric composition. barely perceptible, but definitely present. The air recycling system had altered its output parameters by approximately 0.02%, a minor fluctuation that most environmental monitoring systems would ignore as within normal variance. But Alex wasn't most monitoring systems. "Mercer," she subvocalized urgently. "Something's happening. The environmental systems have been modified." "Specifics?" came the immediate response. "Unknown compound being introduced through air circulation. Concentration too low for immediate effects, but building gradually." "Evacuation protocols?" Alex considered briefly. "Negative. Too subtle for conventional detection. Initiating would cause panic without clear justification. I need to locate the source first." Her enhanced olfactory capabilities, another benefit of the Chimera modifications, detected what normal human senses couldn't. A faint, almost imperceptible chemical signature underlying the station's normal atmospheric mix. Something designed to be undetectable until its concentration reached effective levels. The consortium diplomat had begun his address, speaking of renewed cooperation and shared interests between the factions. The audience appeared attentive, though Alex noticed several delegates, particularly those with more sensitive respiratory systems, shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Whatever was being introduced to the atmosphere, some species were already feeling its effects. Her gaze returned to Thomas Reeves, the consortium aide. He remained focused on his data pad, but now Alex noticed he was breathing differently than those around him. Shallow, controlled inhalations, as if minimizing his exposure to the station's atmosphere. "Mercer," she subvocalized. "Reeves is involved. He's controlling his breathing pattern to reduce exposure." "Understood. Security team's on standby, but we need more before intervening at a diplomatic function." Alex moved casually around the perimeter of the room, positioning herself closer to the consortium delegation while maintaining an official security posture. As she approached, her enhanced hearing detected Reeves speaking softly into a communication device concealed as a standard diplomatic translator. "Dispersal at 17%. Estimated time to optimal concentration, 4 minutes." That confirmed it. Whatever was being introduced to the station's atmosphere would reach its intended effect threshold in 4 minutes. Alex needed to act now, but direct intervention would create a diplomatic incident without concrete evidence. Her enhanced mind calculated options rapidly, assessing and discarding scenarios based on predicted outcomes. Standard security protocols were too slow, too obvious. She needed something unexpected. "Mercer, I need control of the station's environmental alert system. Security clearance Alpha 9 Echo." A brief pause. "Confirmed. What's the play?" "False environmental alert, specific to Section 14B maintenance access, adjacent to the reception hall. Tagged as routine diagnostic." "Understood. Implementing now." 30 seconds later, a soft alert chime sounded, barely audible above the diplomat's speech. Service personnel, the only ones who would recognize the maintenance alert, began moving discreetly toward control panels and access points. Alex intercepted a station engineer before he could reach the environmental control panel near the consortium delegation. "Security override," she murmured, showing her credentials. "I'll handle this section." The engineer nodded and diverted to another area, leaving Alex free to access the panel. With quick, precise movements, she activated the diagnostic interface and identified the source of the atmospheric alteration, a modified filtration node in the circulation system directly above the speaker's podium. Whatever was being introduced was concentrated there, designed to affect the diplomats most severely. And based on the distribution pattern, it wasn't lethal, at least not immediately. Something designed to incapacitate rather than kill. Alex's enhanced cognition made the connection instantly. The most vulnerable individuals would be those at the podium, the senior diplomats from both factions. Incapacitate them in the middle of formal proceedings, create confusion and potential medical emergency, and in the chaos. She scanned the room again, this time looking not for the source, but for the objective. What would happen during the disruption? Her gaze landed on a consortium security officer positioned near a side entrance, standard posting for diplomatic protection, except for one detail. His hand rested near his sidearm, fingers twitching slightly in what might have been anticipation. And he was watching not the crowd for threats, but the consortium's own trade minister, the one deep in conversation with the Alliance economic advisor. "Mercer," Alex subvocalized urgently. "It's an assassination setup. Consortium security officer near the eastern entrance is targeting their own trade minister." "Confirmed visual," came Mercer's tense response. "But we need more before intervening. This could be a massive diplomatic incident if we're wrong." "We're not wrong," Alex insisted. "The atmospheric agent is to create confusion. The security officer will eliminate the target during the chaos, making it appear to be part of whatever effect the agent has." "Why would the consortium eliminate their own minister?" Because he's about to agree to something they don't want. Alex realized, pieces falling into place. The private conversation with the Alliance advisor. They're finalizing terms outside official channels. 3 minutes until optimal concentration. Alex needed to act now, but direct intervention against a consortium security officer without absolute proof would trigger a diplomatic crisis at best, armed confrontation at worst. Time for another unorthodox approach. Mercer, I need a station-wide security communication. All channels, authorization code read 77 Charlie. That's a hostile intrusion alert, Mercer objected. It will trigger full security protocols. Exactly. Do it. Without waiting for confirmation, Alex moved toward the podium, her enhanced speed allowing her to cross the room faster than normal human perception could easily track. She reached the consortium diplomat just as he was concluding his remarks, stepping smoothly beside him as if this were part of the ceremony. Security alert, she said clearly into the microphone, her voice carrying throughout the hall. All diplomatic personnel, please remain in your seats. Security teams will escort you to designated safe areas momentarily. The diplomat stared at her in shock, but before he could object, the station's security alert blared, the unmistakable tone of a hostile intrusion warning. Instantly, security personnel from both factions moved to protective positions around their respective diplomats. In the controlled chaos that followed, Alex kept her focus on 3 targets simultaneously. Thomas Reeves, who had suddenly abandoned his casual posture and was moving toward an exit, the consortium's security officer, whose hand had moved decisively to his weapon, and the trade minister, who looked more confused than alarmed. Mercer, targets moving. Reeves heading for east exit, security officer drawing weapon. Teams engaging, came the response. Ambassador secure, proceed with caution. Alex made her decision instantly. The security officer presented the immediate threat. Reeves was merely the facilitator. With enhanced speed that appeared almost supernatural to normal human perception, she launched herself across the room, calculating trajectories and interception points automatically. The security officer had drawn his weapon, using the confusion of the security alert as cover. As diplomats were hustled towards safety by their protection details, he adjusted his position for a clear line of fire to the trade minister. Alex reached him just as his finger tightened on the trigger. Her enhanced strength allowed her to redirect his arm upward, the discharge harmlessly hitting the ceiling. Before he could react, she executed a precise nerve strike to his wrist, forcing him to drop the weapon, followed by a controlled takedown that immobilized him without causing permanent injury. Hostile neutralized, she subvocalized. Secure the weapon for evidence. Around her, the security alert had triggered full containment protocols. Alliance and consortium security teams had established protective cordons around their respective diplomats, weapons drawn, but not yet aimed at each other. The atmosphere was tense but controlled, exactly as needed to prevent the planned assassination. Reeves is attempting to access maintenance shaft 12, Mercer reported. Team intercepting now. Alex secured the would-be assassin with restraints, ignoring his protests about diplomatic immunity. The evidence would be clear enough once the weapon was analyzed. Non-standard ammunition designed to mimic the effects of the atmospheric agent, making the death appear to be from the same cause affecting others. The air filtration system is still compromised, she reported. Environmental teams need to purge Section 4C immediately before concentration reaches harmful levels. Already implementing, Mercer confirmed. Station security has been notified of the chemical agent. Evacuation of affected areas in progress. As Alliance security personnel took custody of her prisoner, Alex turned her attention to the broader situation. The diplomatic reception had transformed into a coordinated security operation, with medical teams now entering to evaluate those showing symptoms of exposure to the unknown agent. Commander Veleth approached, his expression a mixture of concern and what might have been admiration. Commander Reed, he acknowledged. Once again, you appear to be at the center of an incident. Pure coincidence, Alex replied with a faint smile. Wrong place, right time. Indeed. Veleth's mandibles clicked softly. Though I can't help noticing you neutralized a security threat before most of us were aware it existed. Rather like it's Sigma-19. Just doing my job, Commander. Of course. Veleth studied her with unnerving intensity. You know, there's an old Saurian proverb. The predator who hides its claws is the one most likely to survive the winter. Sounds like wisdom that translates across species, Alex replied carefully. Perhaps. Veleth glanced toward the secured assassin. Consortium security will demand his release under diplomatic protocols. They're welcome to him after Alliance intelligence confirms what we already know. He was attempting to assassinate his own trade minister to prevent an economic agreement that certain factions within the consortium oppose. Veleth's scaled brow raised slightly. That's a significant accusation. One the evidence will support, Alex assured him. The weapon, the atmospheric agent, the communication logs. It's a coordinated operation. And you discerned all this how exactly? Alex smiled. Careful observation and quick thinking. Nothing more remarkable than that. Before Veleth could press further, Mercer approached, his expression professionally neutral, though Alex detected subtle signs of tension. Commander Reed, your presence is requested in Secure Briefing Room 2, Priority Alpha. Of course. She nodded to Veleth. If you'll excuse me, Commander. Certainly. Veleth's mandibles clicked softly, though I suspect our conversations about human capabilities are far from concluded. As Alex followed Mercer from the reception hall, now transformed into a secured incident area, she monitored the ongoing response through her neural implant. The would-be assassin was in custody. Reeves had been apprehended attempting to access an escape vessel, and environmental systems were being purged of the chemical agent. Crisis averted, with minimal diplomatic fallout given the clear evidence of consortium factional involvement rather than official policy. You took a significant risk, Mercer observed as they entered a secure corridor. Intervening so publicly risks exposing your enhanced capabilities. I intervened as any trained security officer would, Alex countered. Nothing I did exceeded normal human parameters, to outside observation. Commander Veleth seems to have his suspicions. Veleth has had suspicions since Sigma-19. But suspicion isn't confirmation. Alex glanced at Mercer. What's the priority alpha? Mercer's expression turned grave. We've identified the chemical agent. It's a Helix operative neural suppressant, specifically designed to incapacitate enhanced individuals while appearing to be a mild irritant to normal humans. Alex processed this information rapidly. They weren't just creating cover for an assassination. They were hunting me. That's our assessment. The concentration was building most rapidly near your initial position. Mercer paused outside the briefing room door. This wasn't just a consortium factional operation. Helix operatives provided the technology and expertise. Victor Harlow, Alex concluded. He's still looking for me. And getting bolder in his approach. Mercer activated the door scanner. The Joint Chiefs are concerned. This operation put hundreds of diplomats at risk just to flush you out, or to neutralize me before I could interfere with their actual objective, the assassination. The briefing room contained not the expected group of intelligence officers, but a single individual, Admiral Callan, head of Alliance Special Operations. Her silver hair was cut in a severe military style, her uniform immaculate despite the late hour. Commander Reed, she greeted Alex without preamble. Your intervention today prevented a diplomatic catastrophe. Well done. Thank you, Admiral. Though I suspect this meeting isn't about commendations. Perceptive. Callan gestured to the seats around the briefing table. We have a situation developing that requires your unique capabilities. As they sat, a holographic display activated in the center of the table, showing what appeared to be a research facility built into an asteroid. Sensor data scrolled alongside the image, indicating significant energy signatures and unusual radiation patterns. This is Outpost Vega 7, Callan explained. Officially a deep space research facility studying stellar phenomena. In reality, it's where we've been monitoring Helix operative communications and movements for the past 2 years. Alex studied the display. And now? Now it's gone silent, Mercer supplied. No communication for 72 hours. Long-range sensors show the facility intact but with unusual energy patterns. You think the Helix operatives have taken it, Alex concluded. We know they have, Callan corrected. A partial transmission was received before communications went dark. She activated another holographic display, this one showing a distorted video feed. The image showed a laboratory in disarray, equipment damaged, personnel either dead or restrained. Standing in the center was a figure Alex recognized immediately, Victor Harlow, his modified form even more altered than when she'd last seen him. Beside him stood his mother, the former director, looking composed despite the violence around her. Demand a trade, Victor was saying, his voice distorted by both the poor transmission and his modified vocal apparatus. The Alliance will deliver Alexandra Reed to coordinates that follow, or we will release the contents of the Vega 7 secure archives to both the consortium and the public. The transmission cut off there, dissolving into static. The secure archives, Alex said, understanding immediately. They contain details on Project Chimera. And much more, Callan confirmed grimly. Vega 7 houses our complete intelligence on the Helix incident, including the Alliance's role in the containment breach and subsequent cover-up. If that information becomes public, It would not only compromise our enhanced operative programs, but potentially trigger open conflict with the consortium. They're escalating from attempted capture to outright blackmail, Mercer observed. Because their previous attempts failed, Alex noted. They're getting desperate. Callan studied her with analytical intensity. Commander Reed, we're asking you to lead a recovery operation. A small elite team will infiltrate Vega 7, neutralize the Helix operative presence, and secure the archives. With respect, Admiral, that sounds like a suicide mission. The Helix operatives have enhanced capabilities that can rival or exceed my own, and they'll be expecting a recovery attempt. They'll be expecting a conventional military response, Callan corrected. A squadron of ships, a large assault team, something they can detect and prepare for. What they won't anticipate is a single enhanced operative with intimate knowledge of their modifications and weaknesses. Alex considered the tactical parameters. Even with my capabilities, the odds are irrelevant, Callan interrupted. You've already demonstrated the ability to overcome superior numbers and positioning through unconventional tactics. That's precisely what this situation requires. A silence fell over the briefing room as Alex processed the request. It was more than a high-risk mission. It was a deliberate confrontation with Victor Harlow and his Helix operatives. The very people who had been hunting her for months. What about Director Harlow? She asked finally. She knows me, my capabilities, my tactical preferences. Which is why your approach must be something she would never anticipate, Callan replied. Something beyond standard Alliance protocols. Alex studied the holographic display of Outpost Vega 7, her enhanced mind already calculating entry points, defensive positions, potential ambush locations. The facility's design was familiar, standard Alliance research outpost architecture with predictable security measures and environmental systems. Systems that could be repurposed, just as she had done at Sigma-19, and again at the diplomatic reception. I'll need complete schematics, she decided. Not just the official layouts, but the actual construction plans, including maintenance access, emergency protocols, and life support configurations. Already compiled, Mercer said, transferring a data package to her neural implant. And I'll need one more thing, Alex added, looking directly at Admiral Callan. Complete operational autonomy. No oversight, no protocols, no rules of engagement. I do this my way or not at all. Callan's expression remained impassive, but something like approval flickered in her eyes. Granted. This operation officially doesn't exist. Whatever methods you employ, whatever decisions you make, the Alliance will maintain plausible deniability. Then I accept the mission, Alex said simply. As the briefing concluded and preparations began, Alex found herself reflecting on how far she had come from that conversation in the Sigma-19 rec room. Kazdevac had been wrong about humans. Not because they couldn't kill quickly, but because he had underestimated their adaptability, their creativity when faced with seemingly impossible odds. The Helix operatives had made the same mistake. They saw her enhancements as the source of her effectiveness, not recognizing that the human element, the unpredictability, the ability to innovate beyond programmed parameters was what truly made her dangerous. Victor Harlow would learn that lesson soon enough, and when she finished with his operation, there would be no alarm to sound, only silence. Because humans, when properly motivated, could be the most formidable predators in the galaxy. The end.